Hello, all. Very happy to be with you, and thank you for inviting me to the SimSim conference. I will talk to you about this exhibition called Hotel Beethoven, exhibition which I curated at the BOZAR Center for Fine Arts in Brussels. We opened in October 2020, and the exhibition closed in January. It was an exhibition supported by the German federal government as part of the Beethoven 2020 events, and as also the German presidency of the EU. And it was a collaboration also with the Bundeskunsthalle in Bonn, which had also organized a very important exhibition and about Beethoven, and which we decided to at the same time collaborate with, but do another show, which is not a biographical exhibition, but an exhibition about the contemporary view or on how we can see and envisage Beethoven now. From there, the title Hotel Beethoven, which is in fact using a concept or a brand, if you want. Beethoven has become a brand, and there are many Hotel Beethovens all over the world in very different places, of course, in Vienna and Bonn and other European cities, but also in most unlikely places like Caracas or Karachi. It shows that Beethoven has become a world brand and is present in very many aspects of world culture, popular culture also. Also in the political sphere, as we know, his music has been used by very different political regimes, from the left to the right. And so it is the way in which Beethoven is multi-layered, is in a way polyphonic. And hotels are also places where people meet, where public events take place, but also very intimate relations take place also. And all these different layers, in fact, are reflected or reflect certainly the way Beethoven is understood now. And that's how we decided to conceive the exhibition in a thematic way. So the hotel is divided in a number of rooms, and all these rooms are related to a specific theme. They all mix, in fact, original Beethoven materials, and especially scores and manuscripts and letters, which were lent to us generously by the Beethoven House in Bonn, most of them, and contemporary work. So it's a dialogue, a permanent dialogue, and reinterpretation also between the historic and the contemporary. And a very important aspect also I want to stress about this exhibition is that we thought about the listening experience, and I wanted to show very different types of listening experiences to the visitor. So there is, of course, music is very much present in the exhibition through headphones, through speakers, through pianos, instruments that play by themselves, or systems that in a way simulate the piano sound coming out of the piano, and also bone conducting, for instance, as a way also of stretching to the question of hearing and deafness, and with important aspects of contemporary deaf culture, which stresses the aspect of deaf gain instead of deaf loss. So deaf gain in the sense of how can we develop other ways of listening, in fact, rather than through the ear. And that is something that we wanted to stress also in the exhibition, and of which Beethoven, the deaf composer, of course, is maybe a predecessor of this way of thinking about how do we listen differently. So we'll go through the exhibition through a virtual tour. I will share my screen, and I will go quickly through these different rooms of the exhibition. So I hope this works, yes. So we are at the entrance of this hotel. The building itself is a very beautiful 1930s building by Victor Horta at the Palais des Beaux-Arts in Brussels. And in fact, the first room is how do we know Beethoven? And we know Beethoven a lot through his imagery, also through these portraits that we know. that were made, some of them during his lifetime, others afterwards, and that were constantly reinterpreted. The famous portrait by Joseph Stieler has been reinterpreted many times, including by pop artist Andy Warhol. That's what you can see here. We also have a totally black painting by, but you can still distinguish the portrait. It's by a British artist named Mark Alexander. And another interpretation of this portrait is in a video still, or in fact, it's not a still. It's a morphing, in fact, of this image of Stieler, where gradually the image transforms into the image of a black man, and it's about the whole question about race. What would have happened if Beethoven had been black? And it's made by a African-American artist, Terry Atkins, as part of a whole series actually that he called the Black Beethoven. Another source of inspiration are the masks that were made during his lifetime, the Lebensmask, or after Beethoven's death, the death mask, which has been, of course, very much a source of inspiration to many artists, and we have some examples here, also a bit pop with Christian Marclay, but also with Franz von Stuck above there. And of course, we also show the work of Antoine Bourdelle, the 19th century Parisian sculptor, who was very much influenced by Beethoven and identified himself and made more than 80 sculptures, bronze sculptures of Beethoven. The counterpart of that is a musical imagery, if you want, and what is the most iconic work maybe of Beethoven is the Moonlight Sonata, of which we show the original score that you can see here, but also an interpretation. As you know, the title is not Beethoven's title, and the Scottish artist Cathy Patterson took this title à la lettre, if you want, and transformed this music into Morse code, which was then sent to the moon and then reflected by the moon. And what we hear is this signal reflected by the moon, which has lots of holes and gaps through the communication process. And so this is played by a player piano in that room. I'll move quickly to the next room, which is Beethoven's Laboratorium Artificiosum. That's a term by Beethoven, designing his studio, in fact. And we are in Beethoven's house, in a way, or metaphorically, or Beethoven's studio. We have beautiful scores of, especially of his third cello sonata, the Opus 69, which are graphically very interesting, as you can see here. But we're also in Beethoven's house through the film by Mauricio Kagel, Ludwig van, which was a fantasy about Beethoven's house, and with contemporary artists having interpreted these different rooms of Beethoven's house. It was done in 1970 for another Beethoven's anniversary, of course. And we also show the work of Christine Sun Kim, who is a deaf artist, a visual artist, but whose work is totally related to how we perceive sound, including with non-auditory means. And one of them is visual, and she makes drawings, for instance, which relate to musical signs and how we use them to interpret the world in a way. The third room is 1805. It's the date of the creation of Fidelio, Beethoven's only opera, which we show in a very peculiar new staging done, or adaptation done by a young New York-based opera company called Heartbeat Opera. It's totally placed in the American and Black Lives Matter context. The cast is black. It takes place in an American prison, and the prisoner's choir, the famous prisoner's choir, is sung by real inmates. There's been a whole important community work done in several US jails with inmates, and they learn the chorus, the choir part, and it's played on video, and that's what you can hear in this room, together with letters from these inmates about their experience. And again, here documents are related to Fidelio, and also Egmont, a very important piece for a theater piece by Goethe, for which Beethoven wrote music. And it's really about Beethoven's political ideas, his ideals about the French Revolution, but also how he related to the Austrian aristocracy in Vienna, and how he, in a way, made his way between his ideals and, in some way, the pragmatic relation he had to maintain with the Austrian aristocracy. Um, and then the next room is about the listening experience. It's really about listening and how we listen, and how Beethoven, in fact, has learned us to listen. We show contemporary works by John Baldessari, for instance, which is Beethoven's trumpet, it's called. It's Beethoven ear, and this huge hearing aid in which you can speak and which responds to you with a Beethoven string quartet that you can hear inside. It relates to, of course, these hearing aids that Beethoven was using, and we show one of them here, together with important documents like a copy of the Heiligenstadt Testament, the conversation, excerpts from the conversation notes also, which Beethoven used to discuss with his entourage, and the work of another deaf artist, Joseph Grigoli, a contemporary artist, which uses the same system through post-its and things like that, and he makes collages of this conversation, in fact, he has with friends. Also the work of a Belgian artist, Baudouin Osterlink, who creates himself kind of also hearing aids and hearing tools, not unsimilar to those of Beethoven, but in a poetic way. The audience could also experience bone conducting. That was another way of engaging with listening through another experience. It is bone conducting. And then we move finally to what we've called the ballroom. It's the bigger hall of the exhibition. Sorry about this moving. And I will show you a little film that explains what we have done here. What we show are 4 pianos. They're made by Chris Mann, for different periods of Beethoven's lifetime. These are all pianos that Beethoven has used. And the idea is, of course, to show the link between the evolution, or the differences between these different pianos and the music itself that was composed at that time. It is a collaboration, of course, with Chris Mann, but also with the Orpheus Institute in Ghent, a research institute, and especially pianist and researcher Tom Begin. This is not the end of the exhibition, but I will end my presentation here and will show you an excerpt of the film. There are 2 other rooms at the end of the exhibition, but you can see that at another time maybe. By the way, this virtual tour, you can see it on the website of BOZAR, www.bozar.be, and here I will play this excerpt of the film. Okay, sorry, this was a short part of the film of this installation. There were also visual works, a work by Jorien de Vogt, a German artist, who did these special drawings for the exhibition. There are interpretations also of the works that were played in the installation, as you probably recognize some of the bagatelles of Beethoven. Um, and it was a very important part of the exhibition, I think, a very impressive. And in a way, it's also almost a self-standing installation with these four pianos and the works that can be heard. There were speakers put inside the pianos. That was work done by sound recording and sound engineer Johan van der Malen. And this was specifically made for the exhibition. I will close my presentation here. I'll be open, of course, for questions in the live part of this presentation. And I hope you enjoyed. And again, you can see the full presentation of the exhibition, the virtual tour on the BOZAR website, so www.bozar.be. And I hope you'll enjoy it. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.